Everyone, meet the ugly rat we have to live with. That's how my daughter's new husband introduced me at their wedding in front of his rich family. Laughter spread across the ballroom. Even my own daughter giggled. I just smiled. Because 3 days earlier, I had already signed papers that gave me control of their company. And across the room, his uncle froze. He recognized me. He knew his nephew had just mocked the woman who held their entire future in her hands. This wasn't humiliation. This was the opening move. The best power is the kind no one sees coming. For 30 years, I was a school bookkeeper. I brought casseroles to potlucks, balanced PTA ledgers, wore the same 2 pairs of shoes. Everyone assumed I was just harmless. Even my husband. He left me with some insurance, his truck, and a few accounts he thought would tide me over. What he never realized was that while he played chess with stocks and retirement plans, I was learning to read the entire board. Every penny mattered. I knew how to make $20 stretch and how to make $200,000 disappear in the best way possible. So when he passed, and people said, "Poor Gloria, she's alone now," they didn't realize what I'd been building in the background. 12 LLCs, all under different names. Quiet purchases, foreclosed properties, land nobody wanted until they did. By the time Marcus's smug little toast echoed across that ballroom, I controlled more than half of the company propping up his lifestyle, and still, I kept quiet. You don't pull out the knife until you're close enough to watch the eyes. The day after the wedding, he tried to schedule a gala, an expensive, press-heavy affair. Needed funding cleared. I froze the wire. Just like that, 1 click from my apartment in Harlem. Then I bought the townhouse he and Jasmine just closed on, through a trust. No one knew it was me. They toasted to their new beginning, and I quietly bought the ground beneath their feet. They laughed at a woman they thought was powerless. But you know what they forget? Bookkeepers see everything, and some of us learn to write checks with sharper edges than swords. Jasmine stopped being my daughter somewhere between sophomore year and spring break in Ibiza. It didn't happen all at once. It was gradual, like a photo fading in the sun. Marcus came into the picture during her senior year. White teeth, custom suits, stories that always began with, "When I was in Bali." She started using words like optics, called our family apartment quaint, stopped bringing her laundry home. That's when I first noticed it. I was no longer her origin. I was her embarrassment. She still called, but only to give instructions. Please don't wear anything weird to the rehearsal dinner. Don't bring up Dad in your speech. He's a downer. He was nice, but Marcus doesn't get it. I swallowed my pride with a tight smile and said, "Of course, sweetheart." She said sweetheart like I was a clerk bagging her groceries. They didn't want me in the family estate during the wedding weekend. Said it was full. They booked me into a chain hotel near the airport. "You'll be more comfortable there," she said. Translation, "Don't ruin the pictures." I nodded. Then I watched the florist truck deliver $9,000 worth of peonies to the estate driveway. And I remembered when I used to bring home single roses for her from the deli after piano recitals. She would cry and say I was the best mom in the world. Now she wouldn't let me stand beside her at the altar. That night, I opened the renovation files on their new townhouse, approved the noise permits, set the demolition date. I didn't cry. I sat very still, watching the cursor blink on the screen like a heartbeat. She didn't just forget where she came from. She erased it. But I was still here, still breathing, still watching. And I was done begging for a place in her life. The morning after the wedding, I found my invitation to the farewell brunch in the trash, still sealed. Jasmine had invited everyone, photographers, her old roommate, even the dog walker, not me. Instead, there was a polite text from Marcus's assistant. "We've made other accommodations for you. Transportation to the airport departs at 10:15. No brunch, no goodbyes. Just a car." The final message was clear. "We're done with you." I didn't answer. Instead, I stood at the window of my hotel, watching the valet bring up expensive luggage and empty champagne carts. I could see the estate from the distance, its windows glowing gold in the morning sun. The same house Marcus refused to let me stay in. He said it was full, but I'd seen the guest list. Half those people left right after the reception. He just didn't want me in the photos. Didn't want the rat getting too close to the crystal. That's fine, I thought. Let them clink their glasses. Because I had already scheduled the next wire transfer, one that would quietly tip the scale. The final 3% I needed to claim full controlling interest was tied up in a sleepy little family fund in Luxembourg. They didn't even know it was still active. I did. I made the call that afternoon. By sunset, the papers were signed. I now had controlling stake in Delacroix Holdings, not majority. Control. The snub was their last mistake, because now every dollar they touched, every deal, every private jet, every vendor flowed through me. They just didn't know it yet. At 11:42 p.m., I got an email confirmation from my attorney. Subject: ownership update finalized attachment, board reassignment draft. It was quiet, clinical. But to me, it was a declaration. They kicked me out of the estate. They downgraded my flight. They told me not to speak at my own daughter's wedding. So now, I wouldn't speak. I'd act. They thought they'd silence the rat, but I was building the maze they were walking through blindfolded. 2 days after the wedding, Walter Delacroix showed up on my building's front steps. No call, no warning. He stood there holding a deli coffee and a paper bag, like we were neighbors, not adversaries. "Can we talk?" he asked, privately. I let him in. We sat at my kitchen table, formica chipped at the edge, a far cry from the Delacroix estate's marble counters. He didn't comment on it, just said, "I didn't know it was you." I didn't answer, just waited. "I signed the papers 6 months ago," he said quietly. We were desperate for capital. Marcus didn't want to go public with it. He said a silent investor made us look stronger than we were. I agreed. I took a slow sip of tea. He rubbed the back of his neck. "You were smart to stay quiet. But Gloria, Marcus called you a rat." I smiled. Not kindly. He looked sick. "You own us, don't you?" I slid a folder across the table. Inside, a printed shareholder ledger, stamped and signed. My name wasn't on it, but 12 shell companies, all roads led back to me. Walter flipped through the pages. His hands started to shake. "Gloria, if Marcus finds out—" "He already did," I said. "He just doesn't know it yet." Walter sank back in his chair like the air had left the room. "This is going to kill him." "No," I said. "It's going to educate him." He stared out my window for a long time. Finally, he said, "Why didn't you tell Jasmine?" "Because I had. 1,000 times. In my actions. In my silence. In every invitation she ignored. In every small kindness she traded for status. She didn't want the truth," I said. "She wanted the story he gave her." Walter stood. "He'll fight this." I nodded. "And he'll lose." Quietly. "In paperwork and purchase orders. I don't need a press release. I just need patience." He walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back. "For what it's worth, you were never a rat." I smiled again. "Tell that to your nephew." I didn't have to leak the wedding video. The internet took care of that. Someone from Marcus's side posted it. Probably thought it was hilarious. A slickly edited reel. Marcus holding his champagne, delivering his punchline. "Everyone meet the ugly rat we have to live with." Laughter. Jasmine giggling beside him. Cue trending audio, caption subtitles, emojis. It spread like grease on silk. At first they laughed along. Jasmine reposted it, added a comment. "Parents, know when to retire. You're not the main character anymore." A smug mic drop. She thought it was edgy, empowering even. A clap back against boomer drama. She forgot that the internet has teeth. Within hours, the replies turned. "This is your mother? Who raised you? Your husband's a clown. She looks like she built everything you're standing on." Clips from the wedding flew across TikTok, Twitter, even Reddit threads about corporate heiresses with no grace. Someone found an old photo of me, hairpinned, holding a clipboard outside a school board meeting, and compared it to Jasmine's designer gown. From bookkeeper to backbone. Y'all played the wrong one. It went viral, and Jasmine cracked. First, she locked her accounts. Then, she posted an apology, not to me, to her followers. It was a joke taken out of context. Family dynamics are complicated. The comments roasted her alive. Marcus tried damage control, gave a phone interview to some finance podcast, said the whole thing was lighthearted. By then, I'd already pulled the string on his next embarrassment. His hedge fund had a gala coming up, one meant to court new investors. He needed funding released for venue, staffing, and donor gifts. He clicked request. I clicked deny. He tried again, denied, again. He called his assistant screaming, blamed the board, said, "Who the hell is even signing off on this?" That's the part no one told him. I am. I watched it all from my apartment, phone on mute, emails open, wine in hand. They weren't just going viral. They were unraveling. And Jasmine? She hadn't even begun to understand what was coming next. Marcus didn't know how to lose. Not quietly, not publicly, and certainly not to someone like me. When his assistant told him the wire transfer was denied, again, he didn't just snap. He detonated. He yelled so loud the floor staff heard it. Fired a junior manager on the spot. Claimed internal sabotage. Threatened lawsuits. The board watched in silence. No one told him why the account froze. They wouldn't. Because technically, I was just a silent investor. Silent, not stupid. The third time he tried pulling funds for urgent reputation management, I paused the request. Let it hang there for 3 days. No rejection, no approval. Let him sweat. Then I made a small purchase. Not flashy, not traceable. A blind trust in Delaware bought the townhouse Marcus and Jasmine had just closed on. 6 bedrooms, marble counters, custom closets. They posted about it 2 weeks ago, called it their forever home. Now it belonged to me. I didn't change the locks, didn't file anything noisy, I just waited. Quiet as a whisper. Power doesn't shout. It smiles. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up to drills and jackhammers. Demolition started at 6:45 a.m. sharp, authorized by the owner. Permits posted. Workers cheerful and loud. I signed it 3 days ago. He called the police. They told him to take it up with the property management company, who then gave him the contact info for the trust's legal representative. He called them. Voicemail. He didn't even know he was leaving messages for my lawyer. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat in the kitchen, mascara already smudged, staring into her untouched latte. Their dream home was now a construction site. The walls vibrated. Cracks appeared in their Instagram perfect life. And still, I hadn't raised my voice. They called me a rat. But rats know how to gnaw at foundations, especially when we know exactly which beams hold the whole house up. They thought it was a noise complaint. Marcus came out in a robe, shouting at the crew, demanding permits, threatening lawsuits. The foreman didn't flinch, just pointed to the signature. This was authorized, sir, by me, owner of record. Documents filed. Quiet, legal, bulletproof. Their neighbors peeked through curtains. Some even filmed. Jasmine stood on the porch in silk pajamas and no shoes. Her hands trembled around a coffee mug. No ring on her finger that morning. By 8:15, the noise stopped, for now. That's when the knock came at my door. I already knew it was her. Security camera lit up before she even stepped onto the stoop. She looked smaller than I remembered. No makeup. Her hair was tied back in one of those soft, falling-apart buns she used to wear as a teenager. When I opened the door, she didn't say hi. She said, "Why are you doing this?" No hug, no apology. Just, "Why are you ruining our life?" I handed her a cup of tea, the good kind, the one she used to ask for during exam weeks. "I'm not ruining anything," I said, "just making a little noise." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Not really, just blinked too much. "It's been a bad week," she whispered. "The internet, Marcus's investors. We're under so much stress." She looked around my modest apartment like it was a crime scene. "You still live here?" she asked. "You own half of Manhattan's industrial space." I smiled. "I like it here." She sat down on the couch like it hurt. I didn't mean what I said in that tweet. It was just everyone was talking. "You meant it," I said. "You just didn't expect consequences." She looked away. You called me background noise. I sipped my tea, let the silence sit. Well, I said softly, I'm just making a little more of it. She flinched, not visibly, but I saw it. In her breath, in the way she gripped the cup. Then she did something I didn't expect. She asked, "Can we fix this?" And for a second, I saw my little girl again. The one who used to fall asleep beside me watching cooking shows. The one who thought I was magic. But she wasn't here. This woman sitting across from me? She picked her team. I set my cup down, stood, and opened the door. I think you should go now. She left without finishing her tea. No apology, no hug. Just the faint sound of heels clicking down my hallway. I watched her from the peephole, standing in the elevator like a lost child in a stranger's coat. She pressed the button with shaking fingers, then wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. And for a moment, I almost opened the door. Almost. But some lessons don't land in kitchens. They land in front of an audience. That night, Marcus had a stage waiting. Marcus held the mic like he was born for it. Spotlight glowing. Camera crews ready. The Delacroix Gala, renamed the Legacy Ball, was packed with desperate donors and shallow applause. He wore a navy tux, perfect fit, smile gleaming. Fake confidence is louder than real shame. Tonight, he declared, we're proud to donate $1 million to the Global Equity Fund. Flashbulbs popped. People clapped. His assistant handed him the corporate card for the stage side swipe. He did it for effect. Loud, public, performative. The card reader beeped. Declined. He laughed once. Tight. Tried again. Declined. Louder this time. The host chuckled nervously. Technical glitch? Marcus's smile didn't budge, but his knuckles whitened on the card. He tried a second card, then a third. All declined. The room changed. That fast. From applause to whispers, then murmurs, then gasps. A voice from the back. Isn't that the guy who insulted his mother-in-law on camera? Someone else. She owns the company, right? The bookkeeper lady? Phones were already out. The wedding toast video started playing on a loop, right there in the ballroom. Marcus stood frozen in the spotlight, surrounded by $1 million of promised generosity he couldn't back up. The host leaned in, whispered something. He shook his head. They cut the mic. The music died. And Marcus, king of optics, lord of publicity, was left blinking under lights he could no longer control. Meanwhile, I was home, watching the live stream on my laptop, wine in hand, slippers on. I didn't need to be there. I already was. Every wire, every freeze, every tap. Marcus had called me invisible, a rat in his walls. Now he was the one scrambling, watched by hundreds, exposed by a card reader and his own arrogance. I didn't ruin the gala. I just let gravity do what it always does when you build too high on nothing. By Monday morning, they couldn't hide. The headlines weren't subtle. Finance golden boy humbled by viral karma. Gala goes silent. Bank accounts say number. Who's really holding the purse strings at Delacroix Holdings? That last one had a photo of me. Uncle Walter showed up again, this time in a suit, not coffee and excuses. He requested a meeting with Marcus and Jasmine. Boardroom. Downtown. No assistants. No press. Just family. The air was stiff with something none of them wore well. Humility. Walter laid it all out. The trust names, the holding companies, the shares, the blind purchases, the townhouse deed. Everything tied back to me. Jasmine's hands started to shake. She looked at Marcus like she was seeing him for the first time. Not the tuxedo, not the lifestyle, just the man who bet her future against a woman he never bothered to Google. You mocked the woman funding your life, Walter said, and now she owns it. Marcus's mouth opened, then closed. No excuses left, no jokes, just silence. Then Jasmine asked the only honest question in the room. How long? Walter nodded to the folder. Since before the engagement. She was the one who rescued your hedge fund, Marcus. You never asked who wrote the check. You just cashed it. Jasmine stood, slowly. I need a minute. She walked out of the room. heels clicking like a metronome of regret. Marcus didn't follow. He slumped back, jaw tight, not angry, just cornered. "Can we fix it?" he asked. Walter didn't even blink. "You had a silent partner who stayed silent until you humiliated her. This isn't fixable, Marcus. It's over." Later that night, I got a voicemail. Jasmine's voice. Small, unsteady. "Mom, I know you're mad, and maybe I deserve it. But maybe we could have lunch? Just us. Please?" I didn't save it. Didn't call her back. Instead, I sent one more document to my lawyer. Marcus's eviction. Effective immediately. The voicemail came late. Almost midnight. Jasmine's voice was softer than I'd heard in years. No polish. No performance. "Mom, I know you're mad. And maybe I deserve it. But maybe we could have lunch? Just us. Please?" For a moment, I almost believed it. But then I remembered the text. "Parents, know when to retire. You're not the main character anymore." And I remembered the brunch invitation. Still sealed. Still in the hotel trash. So I didn't call her back. I blocked the number. Quietly. Cleanly. Then I signed the final set of papers. Eviction. Filed. Approved. Effective. Immediately. By sunrise, a courier had delivered the notice. Marcus stormed into the lobby of the property office, like a man used to getting answers. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. The clerk didn't flinch, just pointed to the envelope. "Order from the property trust. Signed and notarized." "You can't evict me," Marcus snapped. "I own that house." "No," she said. "You used to. You leased it back during renovations. And your lease just ended." He called Jasmine from the sidewalk. Loud. Angry. I didn't hear the words, but I could guess. She knew it was me now. That Marcus had made a joke on camera, and the punchline just cost him his home. They tried to spin it online. Jasmine posted a soft-lit photo of them packing boxes with a caption. "Sometimes life takes unexpected turns. We're starting a new chapter. Growth looks different for everyone." But the comments didn't buy it. Translation: Mom evicted you. Karma with a clipboard. Bet that rat owns the moving truck too. They deleted the post within hours. And just like that, the townhouse was empty, still under renovation, still loud with drills and dust, but finally quiet in one way that mattered. He wasn't there. No more silk robes. No more espresso machines on the marble counters. Just a stripped kitchen and a clipboard with a contractor's signature. They played games with appearances. I filed paperwork. And in the end, paper always wins. The invitation came by email. Subject line: dinner, just us. No pressure, no mention of eviction, no apology. Just a time and an address, an apartment in the Upper East Side. A rental. I almost didn't go. But sometimes the last scene needs a witness. The building was nice. Not extravagant, a step down from their usual level of excess. I could smell the effort in the hallway. Candle burning, door cracked, just enough to say we're not mad, we're warm. Jasmine greeted me with a brittle smile. Marcus held a cheap bottle of red wine like it might cover the cracks in the walls. The apartment was clean but cold. The kind of space you lease when you're pretending you still have options. "We just want to talk," Jasmine said. "Start fresh." There were 2 plates set, something overpriced and underseasoned from a delivery service. No place cards, no photographers, no gold foil menus, just desperation in a bottle. I listened to them stumble through pleasantries, how they were realigning, how the internet was cruel, how family should come before business. Then Marcus leaned forward. "I know we got off on the wrong foot," he said, "but we're trying to build something real now." I smiled, not warmly. I brought something. I slid a sealed envelope across the table. Jasmine reached for it. Her hands were trembling again. She opened it, read the first line, and froze. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. His face collapsed. Inside, legal documentation of Delacroix Holdings, hedge fund liquidation. Filed. Final. Signed off by majority control, me. The company wasn't being restructured. It was being shut down, effectively immediately. Their legacy? Gone. Their salaries? Gone. The brand Marcus wore like a second skin? Erased with one decision. You killed the fund? He said, voice thin. No, I said. You did that when you toasted to humiliation with your mouth full of my money. Jasmine's lip quivered. But what are we supposed to do now? Grow, I said, echoing her post. Looks different for everyone. I stood, picked up my coat, and left before the tears started. Because this wasn't revenge. This was accountability. And I wanted them to feel every quiet second of it. By Friday, it all hit the news. Delacroix Holdings shuts down. Sources cite. Silent majority control. No press conference. No exit strategy. Just a line in the business section and a whole lot of unanswered calls. Marcus lost his license first. Regulatory violations. Improper disclosures. Something about misrepresentation of shareholder structure. He tried to blame the collapse on internal sabotage, but the emails showed otherwise. He'd approved everything I'd suggested, never reading the fine print. His lawyer dropped him. So did his watch sponsor. Their wedding vendors started demanding payment. Apparently, the $85,000 reception bill was pending reimbursement from the firm. There would be no reimbursement. The townhouse they once bragged about online? Under foreclosure again. Jasmine tried to sell the designer furniture, but most of it was on consignment. She posted an Instagram story, blurry, tearful, her voice cracked. We're just going through a transition. People change. Priorities shift. But the comments were brutal. Translation: Mommy took her checkbook back. Ugly rat wins. This what happens when you build your brand on mockery. The same followers who once envied her now used her as a cautionary tale. One by one, their friends stopped answering texts. Invitations dried up. Collaborations canceled. I didn't call. I didn't visit. I just watched. From my apartment. From silence. From peace. The same silence they mistook for weakness. They'd built their lives on borrowed money, borrowed charm, borrowed rooms, but none of it was theirs. Not really. Not the house. Not the fund. Not even the respect they thought they commanded. They didn't lose everything. They never owned it to begin with. And for the first time in years, I felt something deeper than anger. Not pity, not satisfaction, clarity. This was what it looked like when the scaffolding falls. Not loud, not violent, just dust settling. And beneath it, nothing but empty chairs and overdue bills. I bought the car at auction for $4,000. Marcus's old BMW Black. Leather seats, low mileage. It used to be his pride, the one he posed with for press shots. License plate, DRLXCEO. He'd bought it right after the first fund hit 8 figures, called it a symbol. Now it was parked in my garage, stripped of vanity plates, paid in cash. The dealer didn't even blink when I walked in, didn't care that the name on the paperwork used to be plastered on investment brochures. I didn't need it. I had a perfectly good sedan, but something about sliding into that car, adjusting the seat, pressing the ignition, it felt like finishing a sentence someone else started. That afternoon, I took a slow drive past their new place, a dingy rental just outside the city. Window units, chipped siding, laundry hanging off the balcony like surrender flags. I didn't plan to stop. I just wanted to see, but Jasmine saw me. She was outside, carrying groceries, paper bags, not designer totes. She turned as the car slowed, and for a second, she froze. Recognition hit like a slap. She knew the car. She knew what it meant, and she knew who was behind the wheel. She stepped off the curb, shouted something I couldn't hear. I didn't stop, didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't give her the show. I just drove past, windows up, sunlight glinting off a car that used to mean everything to her husband. She stood there, one bag slipping from her arms, oranges rolling into the gutter. In the rearview mirror, I watched her shrink smaller and smaller. No security team. No Instagram filter. No Marcus. Just a woman realizing she'd traded her mother for a lifestyle that couldn't last 3 business quarters. And now, she had neither. They called me a rat. They made me invisible. But there I was in the driver's seat, and they were standing on the curb. 2 months later, I launched the fund. $1 million, set aside, quietly, deliberately. Scholarships for first-generation girls pursuing finance degrees, especially daughters of immigrants, especially the ones who've been told to stay quiet, stay small, stay in the background. I named it exactly what they'd called me, the Ugly Rat Fund. The name raised eyebrows. My lawyer advised against it. Too emotional, he warned. That's exactly the point. The logo? A rat in pearls, standing on a pile of balance sheets. No crown, no claws. Just calm, polished, and holding a pen. I wanted them to see it and flinch, not because it was aggressive, because it was true. Applications flooded in, not just from students, but from women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, women who thought they'd missed their shot. They wrote things like, "I didn't think anyone saw us. You reminded me I'm allowed to want more. It's time I stopped waiting for permission." I read every word, approved every grant personally. Jasmine never commented publicly, but I saw the search hit on the website. Her city, her IP address. She visited 3 times in one night. Of course she did. She knew what the name meant, not just to me, to her, to Marcus, to everyone who laughed at the wedding and thought it would end there. But it didn't, because the fund got press, articles, podcasts, profiles in places they used to pay to be featured in. They called me the Silent Empire, said I was a symbol of resilience. I wasn't trying to be anything. I was just telling the truth, and I used their words as fuel. They called me a rat? Fine. I'd be the one feeding the next generation of wolves. The interview request came from a small business podcast. They didn't know the full story, just the fund, the name, the mystery behind the woman who broke the internet without saying a word. I agreed, but only if we filmed it in my apartment, not some fancy studio, not with soft lighting and a vanity team. Just me, at my kitchen table. Where all of this began, the host, nervous, young, asked if I needed a script. "No," I said. "I know what I'm going to say." We rolled in one take. I looked straight into the camera. "My name is Gloria Wynn. You might know me as the Ugly Rat. That's what my daughter's husband called me. At their wedding, in front of their friends, in front of her." Pause. Let it hang. I smiled. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I already owned the company feeding his family, and I knew he had no idea. Another pause. No drama, just truth. They laughed. They thought I was invisible. Just the widow, just the bookkeeper, just the background noise. I leaned forward, but I was the one holding the cheese. The host barely breathed. I spent 30 years being underestimated. That's fine. That's how I learned. That's how I built. Quietly, steadily, legally. I didn't raise my voice. I raised capital. One breath. In, out. Let them laugh. Let them think you're harmless. Just make sure that when the time comes, you're the one signing the checks. The host blinked. "Is there anything else you'd like to add?" I smiled. "Yes." Turned back to the camera. "To every woman out there who's been silenced, dismissed, erased, you don't need permission to hold power. You already do. Learn where it lives. Learn how to move it." I stood. Walked out of frame. End of tape. They posted the clip the next morning. It exploded. Over 6 million views in 48 hours. The top comment read, "This isn't a comeback. This is a coronation." The gala venue looked different now. No spotlights. No Marcus on stage. Just rows of folding chairs, warm string lights, and women shaking hands like they owned the room. Because some of them now did. The same ballroom where he once stood and watched his legacy slip through a failed card swipe. Tonight, it belonged to me. The Ugly Rat Fund hosted its first official banquet. No red carpet, no champagne walls, just scholarship recipients industry mentors, and mothers in secondhand blazers crying into their napkins because someone finally saw them. I took the stage. No script, no teleprompter, just a printed card with their names. "My name is Gloria Wynne," I said, "and I am honored to invest in futures stronger than mine ever was allowed to be." Applause. Real, earned. I talked about balance sheets, grit, silence. I talked about what it means to be erased and how to come back louder without ever raising your voice. And when I turned to gesture at the women behind me, our first 10 scholars, I saw her, Jasmine, not in a gown, not on stage. She stood by the bar, pouring wine, black slacks, flat shoes, a job that paid hourly. She didn't look up. She knew I saw her. She also knew I wasn't here to shame her. I just kept talking. Because tonight wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about her, or Marcus, or the wedding toast that tried to bury me. It was about every woman who's ever been called a rat for knowing where the power sits. And tonight, that power had a microphone. And a room full of applause. I finished the speech. Handed out the awards. At one point, Jasmine passed by my table. She set down a glass of sparkling water in front of me. Quiet. Careful. I didn't say thank you. But I did take a sip. Because in this moment, at my event, at my table, in the spotlight she gave away, I wasn't angry anymore. I was complete. Thank you for spending time with me and listening to my story. If it moved you, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, send it their way.